Welcome back. It's me, Lou. I'm here for another action figure unboxing and review. Today from Hasbro in their Marvel Legends series, we are featuring Venom. Alright, so this is going to be a different kind of video. We have three versions of the same Venom figure. And it's going to be... this is going to be an interesting video, okay? That's all I can say. Alright, so first off... today is May 25th, 2025. I've had all of these Venom figures sitting in my collection for some time now. They've been begging to be reviewed, but life's been busy. I just haven't had time to get around to it. And I thought today was the perfect day, and I'm in the mood to do this, so we're going to do it. All right, so we have three versions of the Sony Pictures Venom. And, they all look fantastic. They all look beautiful. But one of these three things here doesn't belong. And I'll get into that in a little bit. So the first version that we got was some years back. This one here was produced in 2020. So 5 years ago, Hasbro gave us this Marvel Legends Venom. This was to coincide... with a Tom Hardy Sony-produced live-action film. And this was a Walgreens exclusive here in the United States. Some of you might remember that there was a time when Walgreens, the pharmaceutical store, got some really, really cool exclusive action figures. You know, they got some cool exclusive Star Wars. They got some cool exclusive Star Wars action figures. Like the first version of the Star Wars Black Series prototype white armored Boba Fett. They also had the WWE exclusives Divas line. So back in the day, Walgreens was a hip, happening place to collect toys. And if you wanted this Venom, you had to go to Walgreens. And lucky me, one day I stumbled upon it and I pulled the trigger and got it. And this is something I've always displayed on my wall. For me, as much as I would have liked to have opened it, I was much more interested in the comic book version of Venom. The comic book versions of Venom, the figures were always a lot bigger, especially that Build-A-Figure one. Whereas this one, is decent in size. And the one thing also is that I wasn't always keen on that they left out Venom's logo on his chest. I wasn't too hot on the weird white vein and vascular work on his body. It just looked kind of off. But it's a beautiful figure nonetheless. So yeah, we got this one 5 years ago. Up next, we got this. This was really recent. This came out last year to coincide with the release of the last Venom movie, The Last Dance. This one came out in 2024, but it's branded for the second Venom movie, Let There Be Carnage. There was also a Marvel Legends Carnage figure, which was a deluxe box figure, which is gigantic. That figure is gorgeous. If you ever come across that Carnage figure, pick it up. But over here, we got this Venom Let There Be Carnage figure, and I think I got this one at my local Target. It's essentially the same as the Walgreens figure, which we got, but the paint job is a lot cleaner. But I believe it's essentially the same mold all around. Nothing's really different. I believe the head's different. Oh no, I believe the heads are the same. The hand options are the same. It's that the paint execution is a lot better. And I think you got extra accessories also. Looking underneath, you can kind of see there's the additional tendrils with the small Venom faces, which you'd plug into the back, which I think the first version is missing. So again, much like this figure, unfortunately, I am not going to unbox this one, and I'll get into that in a moment. But if you happen to come across this, for a fair price, get it. It's worth the money, especially since the Walgreens figure was very difficult to find. All right, so we're going to set these two figures aside, and we're actually going to open a Venom figure, which we have right here. Now, this, don't be misled by the packaging. Even though it says Hasbro, even though it says Venom, and it says Marvel Legends, this is a knockoff. This is not a legitimate product whatsoever. I came across this on Amazon. Around the time when the last Venom movie came out, I got Venom fever, and I was just buying everything and Venom because I just love Venom to begin with. And Amazon had this interesting Venom figure, which was labeled as a Marvel Legends. And then I bought it because the big selling point for me is that it came with all these additional accessories. So as you can see, the accessories are not included in the box. They were in a separate baggie. And I'm like, as soon as I got this in the mail, I'm like, this is this is completely a bootleg. The box is very flimsy. It's not as durable as a legitimate Hasbro Venom box. You know, when you look on the back, it looks like they just scanned in this image and scanned in the text. It just doesn't look. It just feels. You know, everything about this just feels bootleg. You know, nothing about this feels legit. And on top of that, all the accessories here, you know, they're in the baggie. They're not in the box. And I think some of these accessories are knockoff pieces of that deluxe Marvel Legends Venom 2-pack that came with Null and Venom. And hopefully I'll do a review of that 2-pack in the near future. But yeah, today we're going to look at this, the knockoff Venom figure. As you can see, it looks very, very close to the actual legit product put out by Hasbro. You know, they're the same size, they have the same head and everything. But if I had to guess, you know, this could just be a recasting of the figure, and it's just probably made in some sort of bootleg factory in Asia. So let's take this guy out because I am curious about the quality. This would not be the first time that I've reviewed a figure that was a bootleg. In the past, there was an Avengers Spider-Man figure that I bought on Amazon that turned out to be a bootleg. There was a Joker, I think like NECA figure. It was either NECA or Mezco that was a bootleg. And the box, the card stock, it's very flimsy. It's not as durable as a legit product. It comes with this qualified certificate. You know, you never get this with a legit Hasbro product. And for the actual pieces, there's a head. Even though it's a knockoff, it's still not decently done. It's not as clean as a Hasbro one. You know, the paint application is a little bit messy around the mouth and teeth. He does come with extra hands. Like we see right here. Now they're both fists. And then for the figure itself, yeah, this is where it just screams knockoff. All the pieces, they're not as snug. You can see the kind of, it's not as it's not well crafted like a Hasbro product. The plastic does have some heft to it, so it does feel a bit weighty. Surprisingly, the joints do move pretty smooth. You know, everything's moving like it should. It has the ab crunch. It has the diaphragm cut, which it moves smooth as butter. But when you just handle it, you could tell it's a knockoff. But you know, it's a decent knockoff. You know, I don't necessarily endorse knockoffs, but when I bought this, I just had to see for myself. The pins, you could tell they exceed. You know, they break the skin of the figure. You know, they come out too far. And then the joints move like they move smoother than a Marvel Legend than a legit Hasbro product, but you know, it's just there's something flimsy about it. This guy stands in at about 7 3/4. Here it is next to a standard Marvel Legends figure with the X-Men character Vulcan. You know, he towers over him. But yeah, it's a knockoff. The head comes off just like an original one would. And then the ball joint, it's not even a ball joint. It kind of, If you look at it, it has faceted sides. As you know, it's not completely smooth and round. The other head doesn't plug in. And there's the other head. I do like the one with the tongue better. These heads seem a little bit small, but I think they're about the right size. And then, yeah, it's a decent figure for a knockoff, you know. But for me, the big selling point was this weird baggie of accessories. And we're going to take this out. All right, so for a knockoff, you get a lot of bang for your buck here. You get a display base. You get the wings. Oh, this is a cool thing too. This is something that I don't know if you even get in a Marvel Legends figure. All right, correct me if I'm wrong. Does anyone remember? Do you get an actual head in any of the Marvel Legends Venom, where it's half Eddie Brock and then the other half is like Venom? It's kind of like when he's transforming, or like, you know how sometimes in a live action movie, sometimes when Venom's speaking, all of a sudden his face kind of opens up and then you can see Tom Hardy underneath. It's kind of like that. So that's kind of a cool accessory. The likeness of Tom Hardy looks horrible. It looks more like Russell Crowe, but I appreciate the effort. And then the Venom eye here is kind of droopy, you know, but it's still kind of a cool effect. And then of course you got the different like appendages for Venom when he's being violent. You know, if he wants to like maim or mutilate his opponent, he can easily swap these out where his hands are. You know, give him the scythe, give him this crazy blade, the giant axes. So yeah, I can easily swap these out of his hand, if this will come out. All right, so this is where it's a knockoff. Give me a second. This is not coming off easily. Yeah, so with some force, you remove this. And then if you want, you could give him like the giant axe. My fear, though, is that this is a knockoff. I'd be terrified of this cracking off and just being stuck in there. But yeah, that's an option. You know, if you want to give him the giant axe, go for it. But I'm just going to go back to the hand, if I can get it in safely without wrecking it. But he comes with these giant wings, which the other figure did not have. And I believe these are taken off. These are knockoffs of taken from the Null figure, which was a 2-pack. There's slots. There's a socket in his shoulders. And then there's this peg, which is articulated. And it doesn't want to move. I might have to heat this up. I don't want to force this because I don't want this to crack. But it's a very stiff plastic, so I'm probably going to have to heat this up just to loosen up the joint. But you could attach the wings if they'll go in smoothly. Do they go in? Yeah, these do not even plug in very well. Yeah, I might have to... Alright, so this is where the figure fails. It has these slots for the wings, but it doesn't want to accept the peg. The plastic's too stiff. Again, I might have to heat this up just to soften the plastic to allow this to fit inside. But essentially, you could give Venom the Null wings, you know, once you get them plugged in, and they are articulated. And you could create this kind of like cool bat-like version of Venom. So yeah, you know, unfortunately I can't do that on camera because the socket is kind of collapsing on itself and the plastic's very stiff. So I'll probably have to heat that up and then heat up the ball around the peg just to loosen up the joint so it can actually flex and move. But yeah, here we have a knockoff of Venom. I didn't pay too much for it. It was probably slightly more expensive than the average figure. But it was an interesting thing. You know, I was intrigued by this weird head. The accessories, of course, I found very fascinating. And then it comes with this also. You know, this is a display base. It looks like a knockoff of the display base that we got with the Black Widow figure from years ago. And it requires assembly. So, alright, so let's wrap this one up. Once again, my name is Lou. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer or subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support. I greatly appreciate it. So until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy. And I'll see you at the next one. Alright, later.